Hello everyone, I am the storyteller, and tonight I am here just to help you relax, to drift off to sleep by the sound of the waves, like the whispers of old souls. I know you have come to this video not just to hear the story, but also to find a deep, peaceful sleep. But before we begin, please gently like the video and subscribe to the channel so I can continue to tell you strange stories under the dim moonlight. Where are you from? And what time is it where you live? Just relax. Let your body relax. Put all your worries down by your pillow. Let me take you into a world of mysteries where the wind and the waves mingle, and unsolved mysteries are waiting to be told. Are you ready? Over my dead body, I sit in the corner of the embalming room, watching as the mustached man drains the blood from my corpse. The corpse lies on a metal table, covered in a white tarp, and there is a faint choker of purple bruising and checkered abrasions around my neck. The blood in the tubes is purple-colored, with streaks of black. My irises are cloudy white films. My pupils are fading black, lifeless dots. As the mortician hooks me up to the embalming machine with its pump and wires, and the cold fluid enters the veins of my body, I feel nothing. I kind of shiver anyway, out of habit. This is skeevy as hell. Funny thing, I spent my whole life being afraid of death. Looks like I ripped that Band-Aid off. So, what am I doing here, in this musty, dimly lit room? What the hell happened? Obviously, there's some kind of life after death. Mystery solved. But sitting here now, watching my dead body, I've got questions. Lots of questions. Next in line, after those lovely aforementioned quagmires, is why in the hell is this dude singing to my corpse? Like, can you get any creepier? The mortician is singing, knocking on heaven's door as he embalms me. Am I in hell? Wow. Pitchy much. Not only that, but his voice is hoarse and raspy, like he is breathing through a lifetime of Marlboro Reds. I can actually see the emphysema in his lungs, seeing disease. I guess that's one of those lovely abilities one acquires after traveling through the valley of the shadow, and that's me. Amelia. And this is what my life has amounted to. A pale, bloated slab of festering lunch meat. Pathetic. I'm vaguely angry. I don't feel outraged and cheated or anything like that. Not looking to get back into that saggy meat sack. I'm ready to move on. It's more of a boiling bloodlust, an impulse to do harm, to set things right. Unfinished business. I want restitution. But for what? And against whom? There's no way I took the coward's way out. So how did I die? I try to remember. But the last thing I can recall is drinking IPAs and taking Jam-O shots with Eddie at McGillen's old ale house on Drury Street, discussing the scoop I'd been working on. I walk into the casket showroom, which is directly across from the embalming room, and flip on the lights. Turns out, this is another one of my special abilities. The room has a gaudy chandelier, various shades of white on the walls and trim, and cheap green inch-thin carpeting. By the wall is a dingy, moth-eaten couch and stacked plastic chairs. Things are set up for the wake that evening. There are several stands full of freshly delivered flowers, with notes attached, giving their condolences. A poster board with flattering photographs, many of which feature me and my sister, Sarah. A table with a guest book, and some assorted personal items. A dictaphone, a few articles I had framed, showcasing my work, a trophy from high school, blah, 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 blah. I imagine the setting of my death, which I'm guessing was pegged as a suicide by the total lack of mention in the obituary or anywhere else. An inky black shadow appears in front of me, which I somehow recognize as a portal, and it is filled with static, like on an old-time 1980s black and white television set, whose antennas are not set up right. I place my right hand through. It is like jumping into ice-cold water. I am pulled in, and everything goes black. Seconds later, I find myself in a different time and place, in the basement/laundry room of my walk-up Kensington apartment on J Street. Now this is my kind of party. No, not really, Pervo. I'm being facetious. This is a Jomo situation. Besides, this entire room screams setup. Way too fleeky. The crime scene looks like the set of a bizarre porno. Chains, sex toys, a whip, an empty tequila bottle, and a bejeweled, cone-shaped polka dot party hat with glitter. These items are spiraled around my naked body, which is splayed out in an unnatural pose. There is a gratuitous can of whipped cream on an end table, brought to you by the set design team for Leaving Las Vegas. There are diamond-shaped imprints crisscrossing my throat. Kinky. These roughly match the links of a utility chain and master lock dangling from a pipe on the ceiling. There's the homicide detective on his cell phone by the staircase. What is he doing? Taking a coffee break? How about bagging some evidence, dude? I guess that's too much to ask. No suicide note. A flared red mini dress with sequins, fucking sequins, is hanging from an actual hanger on the back of a chair in the corner. What am I? Going to a ballet recital? And that isn't even my size. Who hangs themselves naked, by the way? Asking for a friend. What grown-ass woman wants a bunch of strangers staring at her hoo-ha and critiquing her post-mortem body. And if I'm guessing, someone would have had to have sedated me to get my clothes off without simultaneously losing their groping hands in the process. Good to see forensics is on top of things, seeing as it didn't appear that I had even been given an autopsy, let alone a post-mortem tox screen. Wouldn't want to burden toxicology with ruling out the ruthless murder of a local investigative reporter. Jesus. And here we have Exhibit A through Exhibit motherfucking Z. Forensics hasn't bothered taking any DNA off of my fingers, which are lacerated near the fingernails and probably have some kind of identifying biological evidence. But why bother with that? Taxpayer dollars and all. I certainly wasn't grasping at the chain if I did this to myself. So, query me this. Why do I have lacerations and biological matter under my fingernails? Because I was having such a good time before accidentally shuffling off the mortal coil. These brown brick buildings are so old, the entire basement is probably an asbestos dead zone I wouldn't be caught dead in. Ha! Guess I fucked that one up. I walk to the corner of the room, where I can feel an inky black void of icy cold drawing me in. Another portal begins to shake into existence, static and all. Seconds later, I am back in McGillen's old ale house on Drury Street. The place is filled with Phillies fans, dressed in jerseys and sports tees and sweatpants, swilling beer from octagonal plastic mugs and playing beer pong in the corner by the dartboard. The place smells like a fraternity basement. It's Getting Hot in Hera by Nelly is blaring a bit too loudly as most of the bargoers have their eyes fastened to the flat screens. Sitting at a table under the neon lighting near the bar is Alex. He's a friend, and he works for Congressman David Lebovitz. He's all suited up and out of place, with that annoying American flag pin on his lapel. He's our slightly douchier Barney Stinson. I'd say we love him for it, but he's suspect numero uno at the moment. Julia Denham is sitting across from him, a chirpy Asian woman who is a PR agent for various politicos around town. She is one of those annoying people who tries valiantly to tell everyone what they want to hear and gives the most annoying try hard vibes you've ever experienced. I overhear the two of them discussing Alex's promotion to campaign manager. Interesting. He seems a bit young for that position. And I didn't know he was a social climber. Judging by his drinking habits, I wouldn't have guessed he had so much closet ambition. I'm so happy for you, Alex. You've always been my favorite. So dashing and talented. Well done, sir. And well done is better than well said, Julia says. Here, here, Alex said, raising his mug in a token cheers. The important thing is to focus on David's military background, Julia says. Agreed. The public eats that stuff up, Alex says. Lots of pushback from the union lobbyists. We really need to lock in union support, too, Julia says. You know, there have been rumors about campaign finance issues, hence Jerry being canned, Alex says. We need to silence those rumors, Julia says. I've been working on it, Alex says. This son of a bitch. Did he do it himself? All of my anger boils over and lumps up in my throat, and I look directly into that bitch's face as I scream out, "You bastard!" at the top of my lungs. "You bastard," Julia says. "Excuse me?" Alex says. Holy shit. I've got ventriloquism abilities. I can speak through the living. Okay, focus. Amelia, you can do this. That bastard. I meant, that bastard, I say, through Julia. Interestingly, she doesn't seem to realize I'm speaking through her. You mean Amelia? Alex asks. Yes, that pesky Giorno. We need to make sure she doesn't put the congressman under the microscope or attract unnecessary media attention, I say, through Julia. I wouldn't worry about her. I hear she's a freak and has been on a drug bender lately. I'm sure she can be easily discredited. If she ever even gets around to writing that hit piece, Alex says. Are you fucking serious? I say, through Julia. What? Alex says. I mean, wouldn't want to see her have an unfortunate accident, I say, through Julia. No, wouldn't want that, Alex says with a chuckle. This son of a bitch. At least I know who I'm haunting now, and I am going to haunt this bastard into extinction. You're in for a dead reckoning, Palo. You think you are getting off scot-free on this one? Over my dead body. I distinctly remember, after about a half-dozen Jum-O shots, spilling the beans to Eddie about the scoop I had on the congressman. And Alex had been there, drinking with us that night. I'd laid it all out, given him the goods on a silver platter. How I had a source that Congressman Lebovitz had been funneling campaign funds provided by developer Gerald Bundler, a big-time party faithful, over to several local city councilmen to buy their votes on a zoning and buildings approval. Bundler needed the votes to secure zoning approvals and tax abatements for a gaudy luxury residential tower, unoriginally called the Summit, that does Zippo for Kensington, but which would make Bundler a pretty penny. The two of them slam their mugs together and cheer their damnable conspiracies, and I see an inky black static portal forming over by the dartboard. I walk through two college-age kids playing beer pong. I walk the length of the table. I swat the ball away as I go, and it goes bouncing under a table in the middle of the bar. I knock over a few solo cups, too, for shits and giggles. I step through the portal. Sarah and Eddie are drinking Dunkin' Donuts coffee at the shop by my apartment, seated at cringy tables in the dingy, beat-up walk-in area, which has taken a back seat to the drive-thru, as people have been growing increasingly antisocial. Sarah is my 2-year younger sister. And Eddie, well, you know Eddie, my fellow reporter, best friend. And if I'd lived long enough, there was some underlying chemistry that had us set on a course to eventually fuck. But I guess it is up to Sarah to light that torch if she ever has the inclination. My dance card is a bit full now. What with solving my own murder, time and space portals, learning new supernatural abilities, and figuring out how to pass on to the great beyond. And I'm presently sequestered in a different realm where I can't actually directly interact with the living. So that ship has sailed. She was happy, Sarah. Really happy. I just, Eddie says, in my mental monologue, I think, really wanted to jump her bones. But that's the thing. I have a dirty mind. See her taking her life? Sarah interrupts. Yeah. No. I am not buying it. But I can't help feeling guilty. Maybe there was something I missed. Maybe she was in some kind of trouble, and I didn't see the signs, Eddie says. Maybe if I had just sacked up and made a move that night, she never would have been home alone to be drugged and framed for suicide. I'm sorry. I'll stop. My sister was stubborn to a fault. If she was going to fall on her sword, which she never would have done, you can be damned sure she'd take someone down with her. Someone evil. Someone who deserved it. She never wasted a chance to make a statement, Sarah says. Damn right, sissy. Do you know anyone who would want to do her harm? I say, through Sarah. I can't think of anyone, Eddie says. Was there like a story she was working on? Anyone that might have had cause to shut her up? I ask, through Sarah. Well, Congressman Lebovitz. She was doing a hit piece, Eddie says. And anyone know about the piece who might have, maybe, wanted to stop it? I ask, through Sarah. Only Alex, Eddie says, continuing. Holy shit. Alex was there that night, and he just got promoted to campaign manager. Ah, Eddie, you aren't just a pretty face. Good boy. Now off to make a statement. I arrive in hell. And by that, I mean the Kensington neighborhood of North Philly, above Fishtown. They call it the Badlands. Upstanding citizens are locked indoors, afraid to come outside into the drugs and crime that are ubiquitous. It stands to reason why some developer wants to plow all this away and implant a bunch of yuppies to gentrify the area. But it doesn't mean it's any substitute for cleaning up this mess. Move it out of here, it just ends up someplace else. Philly dope is a thing. $5 a bag. And the stuff is vicious. It is cut with damnation and ill intent. And that is part of the marketing. No joke. There is an open-air drug market on Kensington Avenue that rivals the Roman Forum in terms of sheer brutality. Unsanitary conditions, market domination, carnage, and bloodshed. It bears all the hallmarks of utopia, largest open-air selling market on the East Coast. By a long shot, you can straight up buy fentanyl. Over 200 deaths per year. The place should be swarming with spooks, but I'm the only one that I see. Against a landscape of row houses, abandoned factories, and vacant lots, only Camden more closely resembles Afghanistan. Across the street, there's a Chinese takeout with stock green signage, a nickel laundry that is shuttered, a check cashing joint with padlocked roll-up security doors already down at noon, and an Irish pub called Flanagan's, where people are openly selling drugs outside without even swiveling their heads to look for cops. As Alex walks below the Kensington Avenue underpass on his way to a union rally, he passes by a mattress lying on the lawn of an empty lot by the sidewalk, near a bent-over red fire hydrant. He keeps his head down and walks quickly. I inhabit a bum and say, "Got any change, murderer?" Alex flinches, but doesn't break stride. As he keeps walking, I inhabit a homeless woman who is high as hell and collecting used needles to turn into Prevention Point for clean needles that can be sold for money. Her name is Renee. "You gonna clean up the neighborhood, Alex?" I say. Through her, he turns his head and says, "You know me. I know what you did," I say. Through her, "Jesus Christ," he says, and keeps walking. Eddie is at the rally at the Union Hall in Fishtown. Alex is standing by the congressman. Renee is in the audience. As the congressman gets on stage, Eddie confronts Alex about my death. My powers have increased, and I now possess Renee. As I approach the front of the auditorium in Renee's skin, I take the package of fentanyl out of my pocket. Eddie's face is red. Sweet boy. He has some sweat on his forehead. He is really putting Alex through his paces, laying out the evidence, providing information from the autopsy report, pointing out motive and opportunity. I taught him well. Pains me to think I won't be seeing much of him after this. As Eddie rushes off in a huff, and Alex stands there red-faced and nervous, I approach. "This is for you, you little shit," I say, through Renee, handing Alex a bag full of fentanyl. "Is this?" Alex says, "Yeah, you little pussy. If you want to take the easy way out. Detectives know what you did. Few of us pushers saw you that night, and they are coming for you," I say, through Renee. Alex looks around the room, grabs the fentanyl, and rushes out without waiting for the congressman. Alex is in his penthouse apartment, the Sterling Apartments in Center City. He sits on his microfiber couch, listless, afraid. I am there in the corner. A hypodermic needle sits on the table, and Alex is taking the coward's way out. I watch him as he puts the tourniquet around his arm. I watch the blood pool in the fluid as he injects the chemicals into the blood. His eyes close, and his head lays back on the plush sofa cushions. I am going to embarrass him, I think, strip him naked like he did me. But then another portal opens, warm, full of light, and pulls me in. Doppel by Sean Glenn, Douglas Packard. Why is it that when we stare into terror, we often stare into our own eyes? I think it's the way we're wired. It's our thoughts. We have access to them, but nobody else. And just as it is impossible for foreign hands to unscrew our craniums and peer inside, so too do the minds of others remain unknowable to us. We're alarmed at minds different from our own. We fear those that could be similar, because we don't have to imagine. We know the demons that surge even through normal brains, bat wings and saber fangs next to the little voice that says we should give Grandma a call and then rake the leaves. There's a man in the upper right-hand corner of the mirror. His eyes are my own. Doom. It shudders through me. But how could that be? Russet leaves swirl down from above. They dance in the copper mid-autumn light. It's Saturday at the farmer's market. Children dashing gleefully through cool grass. Fathers in pursuit. Toddlers clamoring at their mothers for another bite of sugary muffin. Cream cheese frosting from the last one, dolloped on the tip of their nose. Peruvian coffee and cheddar frittatas in the air. Fall bounty everywhere. Squash and sweet potatoes, and kale, carrots, beets, and pumpkins. So why does it feel like eternity on the chopping block? And where did my doppel go? He was just there, with me in the mirror. But now he's gone, like a shadow that's changed in the sun. Like a memory I'm not sure is real. I put the sunglasses back on the rack. Knick-knacky things to pick up and try on, but never to buy. The woman behind the booth sighs. More DNA on her merchandise. No money in her pocket. He's stopped to order a London fog. He tips big, rolls a $10 bill into a thin pipe before sliding it into the glass jar while the barista works. There are brownie sample bites next to the register, and he tries one. A young mom clips the heel of his boot accidentally with her stroller and apologizes profusely. Silver smile. It's no problem at all, he assures her. And what's her name? He asks, pointing to the interior of the carriage. Katie, she says, and blushes a little too red for her husband's liking. They hurry off, but she glances back, and that will certainly become an argument in the car. Thank you, darling. He collects the drink from the countertop and sips. He stuffs a folded-up napkin in his back pocket and heads for the parking lot, a leather bag the color of tobacco in his left hand. He's got on a tanned wax canvas jacket and denim trousers, black boots, buffed, something nice to preen in, and a hat, beaver pelt, or rabbit fur, I'm not sure. A modern cowboy that is the doppel of me. Then something surprising happens. My feet begin to move towards the parking lot after my doppel. For what? No reason I can grasp. Nothing logical that would not fall outside the purview of lunacy. Who can justify following anyone without their knowing? That's stalking. And stalking, by its nature, belongs to the realm of the unwell, or the paranoid, or psychotic. But who could possibly come across their twin and let them go as easily as a penny on the pavement? Nobody. I know, because my doppel is in front of me, and my feet are moving, and there is nothing I can do to stop them. My conscience is shrieking, "Stop. Right now. Stop." Before it's too late. It's already too late. I can't stop. He pops the door of a black Chrysler wagon. He tosses the leather bag into the back seat and gets in. The engine roars to life, and he peels out of the lot. The sun glints in his driver's side mirror as he goes. I jog to my Forester and jam the key in the door. I jump in and fumble with the stick shift, spilling the stale coffee parked in the middle console cup holder. It joins the existing sludge. Coffee and tea and melted candies oozed from the wrappers that have fused the loose change into a single chunk. I roll the window down and turn the engine on. I rip out of the lot and discard the coffee that remains. He's a slick maneuver. In and out of traffic he weaves. Controlled, measured. Me after him, choppy and jagged, nearly clipping a sedan, barreling back into the same lane to avoid an F-150 blaring its horn. Possessed. A haunting tune on the radio, one I've never heard. Early this morning, when you knocked on my door, and I said, "Hello, Satan. I believe it is time to go." The Chrysler whips through the intersection. He flies under the traffic light, and it ticks yellow. My hands tighten on the wheel, knuckles whitened to chalk. My foot lead, pulverizing the accelerator. Me and the devil, walking side by side. Me and the devil, walking side by side. Who am I chasing? Him. Who is he? Me. Not me. He looks like me, but he is not me. And I am me, and I'm chasing him. My thoughts are whipping. Why can't I let him go? The sun has dipped below the hill. A chill creeps across the windshield. Darkness thickens. I give the man more distance in these residential blocks, so he remains unaware of me. His speed slows, and he crawls along a few more yards before halting entirely. The interior lights extinguish. I kill my engine at the stop sign a block away, scared to venture too close. A few minutes pass. Then the driver's side door opens, and he emerges. He gathers the leather bag and heads into the house, a bungalow with a converted attic that peeks out from a window above the entrance. When I was 7 years old, I saw a boy beaten so bad he had to be induced into a coma. My mother let me walk home from school as long as I called her at work, exactly at 3:30, to to let her know I was home. Walking a few blocks in your own neighborhood wasn't considered negligence back then. There was an alleyway hidden from the road that abutted an abandoned property and an empty lot overgrown with weeds. My mother told me to avoid it, but I was a kid and it was faster. So what was the harm? 4 boys encircled him, shoving him back and forth like a rag doll. They were older than me, maybe 13 or 14. The boy being terrorized was half their size and already roughed up quite a bit. He had a gash in his lip and a dark spot on his cheek that would certainly be a bruise tomorrow. A rip in his arm sleeve. They pushed and taunted, slapped and cackled. I hid behind the dumpster and cowered, unable to help, scared to retreat since they might see me. What happened next is seared into the unforgettable part of my brain. The chief Neanderthal raised a rock over his head. A rock, not a stone. Something the size of a softball. He laughed as he brought it down on the back of the boy's skull. A sickening thud. The boy crumpled in a cloud of dirt. He didn't move. "What the fuck was that, you idiot?" The Neanderthal's friend raved and hit him in the chest. "You killed him!" The ogre reduced to a minnow. "I didn't mean to. No, no, he's not dead. I didn't hit him that hard. Brett, check if he's breathing." His eyes wide, as if peering into the future of his own conviction, his own juvenile sentence, family shame, and pariah label. The end of his life in front of him. Brett hovered over and listened. "He's breathing. Barely." The boy's chest was rising and falling a quarter of an inch. There was a small pool of blood in the dirt. "Let's get out of here." The boy who hit the Neanderthal gathered his bicycle. "Go home, all of you. Don't tell anyone anything." The boys fled, one after the other. When I was sure they'd gone, I slunk from the dumpster and tiptoed to the boy on the ground. He was breathing, barely. The back of his head was a bloody pulp. He was wearing a dress. That memory floods over me when I am frightened. And I am frightened because after a minute of hemming and hawing and asking for Christ's sakes, what the hell am I doing here? And putting the key in the ignition and taking it out and putting it back in again. A van has pulled around the corner and parked. 2 men emerge, one in a Loden raincoat, the other in a black wool sweater. They open the sliding door of the van and rifle through a black duffel bag. They close the bag up, slide the door shut, and head for the house. Before the man with the raincoat can conceal, I see it. I'm sure it's a pistol. 2 taps on the front door. They ring the doorbell. No answer. The man in the raincoat cracks it open. He slips his foot in and draws his weapon from his hip, slick so as to be concealed from the street. Then the 2 disappear. I am by myself, stunned. My brain is racing. What do I do? Who do I call? Should I just start laying on the horn? My nerves are boiling inside of me, my mind clouding over. Call the police? Tell them what? That I stalked a stranger I thought was my doppel to a place I've never been, and there are 2 armed men after him in whose house I don't know? 5 minutes zoom by. I have to do something. I don't move. A gun barrel on my temple. Cold, freezing. My toes tingle beneath me. Weight and feeling gone away. 1 click, and I'm gone. I'm gonna get in. Shut the engine off. Slide over. Don't make a sound. I do as I'm told. I kill the engine and climb over the stick shift. He sits down and closes the door. My doppel stares into my eyes. You with them? There's no saliva in my mouth. It's all evaporated. It comes out hoarse, quiet. I don't know who they are. I don't know who you are. His face stern. But you did follow me here. I nod. Yes. Why? My fingertips are itchy. The barrel is pointed at my heart because you look just like me. It sounds preposterous. Whatever I've stumbled upon, this is fate. A moth to a flame, and me to my doppel. Caught up in something I don't know, don't understand, and couldn't have foreseen. Paying the price for a bill that is not my own. I can see myself crushed into the dirt. Now I'm wearing the dress, and they've scribbled epithets on my forehead and forearms. The usual offenders. And a crude penis on my cheek, angled downwards towards my busted lip. I touch my fingertips to the back of my skull. Cherry red. I believe you. My lips trembling. What? I ask. I don't know what else to say. I believe you, that you're not with them. He's silent for a moment, and then lowers the weapon. We do look exactly alike. A leaf helicopters onto the windshield. Who are they? Tsk. He sucks his teeth. You seen that leather bag I'm totin'? I nod. Yeah. He looks me back in the eye. Well, son, what if I was to tell you that bag contained a lot of money? Would that start to fill the picture in a bit? A furrowed brow and fire in his gaze. I nod again. Needless to say, people don't normally tote bags of cash for any good reason. There's usually extracurriculars that go on to acquire such a thing, ain't there? Well, I don't wish to tell you much about how I came to be in possession of that bag, but I will say that nobody got hurt, and the people we took it from got enough bags to fill up a rail car. You understand what I'm saying? Nodding is my new language. I have no idea what this doppel is saying. No idea why there is a cowboy version of myself explaining the morality of thievery. He grunts and lights a cigarette. Well, there is a mistruth in there. Someone did get hurt. Used to be 4 of us that did this work. But Maggie, She caught a bullet we just couldn't caulk. Gushed and gushed and gushed, and then, finally, her face just went white. Gone. Like that. He snaps his fingers like catching a bullet is a period at the end of the sentence. Maggie had herself a daughter, paralyzed from the waist down in an accident when she was a young'un. Needed a lot of care, that girl. That's why Maggie did what she did, and she was good at it. That's why she deserved her share. That's why, now she's gone, her daughter deserves what her mama earned. The doppel drags on the cigarette. The car is an ozone of tar. He rolls down the window and ashes the butt. My partners, they disagreed. He nods to the house. They're your partners? Were? Things didn't end well between us. As you can see, the lights in the house have been turned down. They're waiting. I need something from you, kid. This time, I don't nod. I need you to sneak through the back, peek in, and let me know where they are. There's a path through the neighbor's backyard that will conceal you. Leads all the way to the cellar doors, hidden by the brush. It's unlocked. They'd have no reason to be in the basement. They're waiting to ambush me upstairs. Slide in, text me where they are, then get out of there. He rips the cigarette that is now a fleck in his fingers. I'll do the rest. No. Fuck no. No way. I say these things, and then I lunge for the door. Fuck the car. Escape. Run. Figure it out later. Get to safety. Flee from this doppel. Now the boy that was attacked is in a new dress, but this dress is a hospital gown, and there's gauze over his face and head left over from surgery. The green line of the heart monitor blips meekly. I can't say no. This man has my face, and I trust him. He's magnetic. I nod. I reach for the handle, and the doppel brushes my shoulder. Take this, just in case. It's a revolver with a walnut grip. My feet move me. Around the block, and then through the neighbor's yard. Hugging the fence line, and then dashing to the cellar doors. I duck in and pull the lever closed. Quiet. So quiet. Breaths now could be catastrophic. My heart pulses in my esophagus, palms with lakes pooling in them. I tiptoe to the stairs and then inch my way up, one by one. No creaks, no breaths. I edge the cellar door open, my eye in the narrow slit, hidden by the darkness. One at the kitchen table, the other in a living room chair, facing the entrance. There's something wrong. Both of their heads are jerked upwards, twisted grotesquely to the ceiling. If I'm wrong, then I'm a dead man. But I'm not wrong. They are the dead men. I push the door open, and there is no rush to kill me. No commotion at all. I'm too afraid to flip the lights. I sneak over and immediately collapse to my knees, dry heaving. I force myself to keep the bile down, eyes watering like faucets. Twin crescents carved from ear to ear, the both of them. Exposed vertebrae, horror-filled eyes, like they'd seen the devil. Nothing less. The devil. The front door explodes open, and officers pour in. There are red and blue flashing lights in my periphery. Melted candles of color, blurring my vision from the smoke bombs. Get on the fucking ground, now! Get down or you're dead! The boy that was attacked avoided brain death, but he lived with disability all his life. I never told my parents what I saw. I didn't tell anyone. I was too scared. On a lonely highway in the moonlight, the doppel turns the radio knob. See? Don't see why. People dog me around. It must be that old evil spirit, so deep down in your ground. He turns the volume up, all the way up. Into the night, he shouts. I'm a dark mirror hound. Sales pitch. Molly pushed open the door of the conference room. It was a loud, heavy, metal one that left her fingers smelling of dust. She brushed them on her colorful leggings. The conference room wasn't well lit, but it was in a cheap motel on the side of the highway, so Molly hadn't expected much. It smelled of stale coffee and sugary pastries that were piled like faux gold on the table pressed against one wall. Sadie turned and smiled at her. The women embraced each other. Thanks for coming out, beautiful, exclaimed Sadie. Molly nodded back, her eyebrows slightly raised at the memory of her husband, asking why she was bothering to come at all. She had explained that Sadie did help them move in, and she was always inviting her to things. But Molly always declined, and it was just preposterous. And the kids had sleepovers, so they were occupied and he had stopped listening. I was happy to, said Molly. She released Sadie from her hug, but found that she held on. Awkwardly, Molly attempted to rewrap her arms around Sadie's long, thin body. That girl just never seemed to gain any weight. Sadie chuckled a bit and gestured at the pastries and coffee. Coffee at 9 p.m., Sadie? Teased Molly. I thought people liked coffee, protested Sadie. We do. It's just a bit late, don't you think? Said Molly as she approached the table. Sadie? Don't you think? She repeated her question. Sadie? Molly spun around, but found her friend had walked off to the computer. She shrugged and snagged herself a cup, but the burnt smell put her off a bit. She grabbed a cherry Danish and a napkin before taking a seat on one of the black plastic chairs. Oh, exclaimed Sadie. Oh, sweetie, could you please sit in that chair? She indicated the chair on the end of the row at the right-hand side, instead of in the middle, where she could clearly see the presentation. Sorry, babe. It's just, more gals are coming. So, she let her O drag out uncomfortably and pursed her lips, and then smiled at Molly, who was scrambling with her pastry and purse. Who else is coming? Asked Molly. Sadie. spun on her heel. "What? Who else is coming?" repeated Molly as she settled into her new chair. "Oh, some gals from the book club, I hope, and some friends of mine." Her words trailed off. Molly began throwing her hair into a bun, an old habit she had when she got nervous. She tried to be polite and asked, "Do I know any of these friends?" "No, doll, but you'll love 'em, I promise," said Sadie as she marched over to Molly. "God, I do love that dress with those leggings. Just so cute. Perfect for fall," she added, pointing with a polished red nail at the brightly covered leaves that dotted her friend's legs. Sadie grabbed a napkin. She dusted off the chair Molly was just in. Molly, for her part, opened up her mouth to protest that she wasn't dirty when another guest burst through the door. It was quite clear to Molly that Sadie knew this girl better than her because they squealed at the exact same decibel. Molly overheard Sadie mention something about work. At that word, Molly frowned. She remembered work. She remembered lunch with friends, gossip in the break room, and feeling like she was actually contributing to something. Of course, that was all before motherhood. Molly rolled her eyes to keep from crying and raised her pastry to her lips. A few tantalizing flakes fell off, but when she went to bite down, she found the treat rock hard. Disgusted, she removed it from her eyeline and wrapped it up in the napkin. She sniffed her coffee warily, but found a similar level of grossness at the sight of shiny oil circles catching in the light flickering above her head. Molly sighed, longing for her warm bed and beloved husband's soft protests at random news articles that flashed by on the silent TV. She noted Sadie's new friend was permitted to sit in the middle and that the woman didn't take a single snack or cup of tar. But hey, it wasn't like she was missing out. She was rail thin, just like Sadie. Perhaps she was part of the same spin class. A calendar without extracurricular for the kids certainly has more time. Molly sighed. A few more women entered. They came in pairs like on Noah's Ark. 2 women in all black dresses. 2 women in bright leggings that sent a bolt of envy up Molly's spine. 2 women in fur coats who didn't greet Sadie, but joined the first woman with bright red hair in the middle. Sadie kept looking at the door and checking her watch. At exactly 9:15, Sadie flicked the lights off and wobbled to the front in her high heels. The presentation had started. "Welcome, beautiful souls," flashed up on the screen. The words were decorated with pretty pink sparkles and brightly lit up the room. "Thank you for joining me so late tonight, my darlings. But as you know, I didn't want a single excuse about work running late." She clapped her hands together, and it echoed around the room. The side chatter stopped. "I want to talk to you about an exciting opportunity that has just changed my life for the better." began Sadie. She looked like a creepy ghost behind the bright light of the presentation. Molly suddenly felt very cold. Before I get into the nitty-gritty details, I want to share all of the perks that this lifestyle has given me, said Sadie. She flashed the next screen, where bullet points began to zoom into focus as she read them out. It has given me eternal youth, a low-calorie diet, which is totally customizable, incredible investment opportunities, and lifelong friendships. Suddenly, the door burst open. In walked two women, clearly late to the party. But Molly was relieved because their hair was in messy ponytails. They looked around the room and mumbled apologies. She thought she noticed a fruit pouch from the same brand she purchased sticking out of one woman's person. Sadie directed them to the chairs next to Molly, with a sour look on her face. Molly eagerly made room for the women. Sadie cleared her throat. Now that all of our guests have managed to arrive, she paused for dramatic effect, her gaze barreling down at Molly's row. We can continue the presentation. Molly's eyebrows furrowed with concern as she heard the words of her husband echoing back at her that this whole night was a bad idea because she didn't even know these women. But she missed the community of her old city. They had picnics in the park with the kids, a carpool schedule, neighborhood block parties. Of course, that was before it all fell apart. How can you get these opportunities and more, you may ask? Sadie's bright voice brought Molly back to the present, but got real screechy at the end of that question. Molly felt a cold shiver run down her back. It starts with me. My name is Sadie Malone. Sadie clicked the next slide, and a beautiful professional photo of Sadie in a power suit beneath a weeping willow appeared. And I have been involved with this group for, well, Sadie let out a giggle. Centuries. She flashed a winning smile and clicked to the next slide, which showed an edge of an acrylic painting of her flashed on screen. She was dressed in a medieval gown. The artist had captured the beauty of the very same tree from the previous slide, only smaller. Sadie seemed the same exact age. Her skin was less smooth, but the artist still captured it, creamy color against the backdrop of the rushing river. Molly listened for the sound of bird chirping, insects as they flew past her ear. It was as if she'd traveled back in time. The piece felt familiar, and she placed it as one she had seen during a visit to the art museum. A sense of dread began to fill her. Yep, that's me. Can you believe it? She asked. Sadie seemed to grow taller as she leaned into the audience. It's like I haven't aged a day, and neither will you if you choose to join our 3-step program. Her voice seemed to echo in Molly's ears. She felt herself growing tired and colder with each passing second. She readjusted her position in the chair and pinched herself to stay awake. The next slide showed a photo of Sadie embracing a woman in a side hug. "This is BB," said Sadie. "She looks kinda sad, doesn't she?" Sadie's clicker turned into a single red laser dot, which darted over the woman's frumpy dress, unappealing limp hair, and sad teeth. "Well, after 1 month with me, she went from this," Sadie clicked to the next slide, "to this." Before them was a bright photo of a drop-dead gorgeous model who Molly swore she recognized from a red carpet or two. She wore a long red ball gown. Her hair was curled into beautiful waves, and her smile was now white as bone. Now, I will warn you ladies that if you don't follow every step of this program, deadly consequences await you. Sadie's voice seemed to drop an octave, and the image of BB faded. Molly felt Sadie's icy blue eyes lasering into her. It felt like everyone left the room except the two of them. She felt safe and warm in her friend's gaze. The cold of the conference room had melted away, giving into the promise of eternal youth. I can't sleep, can't give in," mumbled Molly under her breath. "If I sleep, I'll die," she continued, and gripped the cheap plastic chair with all her might. "But I know you gorgeous, gorgeous gals aren't dumb enough to not listen to me, right?" exclaimed Sadie. The spell was broken. BB was back to being bright, as was Sadie's tone. "Now for the nitty-gritty, darlings. And I want you to know, I'm only sharing this opportunity with you because I just feel so close to all of you," she said, as she clutched her hands into a fist around her heart. There were soft murmurings of agreement. "The first step to this whole thing is to let me bite you." Sadie's voice had a tinge of glee at the very end. "No, seriously, ladies, I'm not joking. I summoned you because I just think y'all will make the very best vampires in the whole gosh dang world. Because when I bite you, you pledge your undying loyalty and servitude to me, your BFF. And after that, you can host vampire parties of your very own. So you, too, can create your own vampire communities. Isn't that great?" Then she used that icy gaze again. The world faded around Molly, and she was left in the embrace of her friend's warm spell as she said, "Just remember, you'll always be a part of mine, and loyalty to me always comes first. Best friends for life." Molly sat stunned in her chair. Her heartbeat pounded like in the movies. Sweat formed on her neck and dripped down her body. She felt like a child who had put too many blankets on the bed too early in the fall. It was just so hot. And Sadie had the solution. Sadie could cool her down. Sadie could fix her. She blinked her heavy eyelids a few times. Her face was fully relaxed. Subconsciously, her hand drifted to her neck. She felt it drift up her face, pull back, and slap her cheek as hard as it could. It was a technique her father had taught her as part of her driving lessons. Suddenly, as the room came back into view, something inside her screamed at her to run. Grab her purse and run. But it was like her legs couldn't or wouldn't move. Instead, she found herself staring at the presentation before her. Like zombies, the women beside her began to stand and join the line in front of Sadie. It was a horrible, perverse version of communion. Desperately, Molly looked around for the exit, but the darkness around her made it quite the challenge. She reached down for her purse, coffee, and pastry. Slowly, she stood up, suddenly thankful Sadie had forced her into the aisle seat. Molly was careful not to turn her back and was slightly transfixed at the sight of Sadie pulling the women in closer around herself. She seemed to be whispering soft words as she stroked one woman's long, red hair. Molly inched past the final row of chairs, careful to have it between her and the group of hypnotized victims. She used one hand to feel behind her, looking for the edge of the pastry table, but she backed in too quickly, and the table hit the wall. All eyes turned to Molly. "Ah!" screamed Molly. She decided at that moment to turn her back and look for the door. She sensed that the mob had turned and began to stumble over the chairs, reaching for her, grabbing at her. Their arms and hands were like vines. Molly searched her memory desperately as she replayed the night. She had moved chairs. She had been at the center. She had gotten a pastry and coffee. But which one had been closer to the door? Sadie's voice rang high above the moans of her servants. "Molly, Molly, come back, Molly. Please, won't you be the best vampire babe in the world? The coffee." The coffee had been closest to the door, so Molly turned herself around again and was face to face with the girl with red hair. Her eyes were glazed over. Her mouth hung open, and she was blocking Molly's path. As the other women began to draw closer to them, Molly scrambled with what to do. She felt a bit of coffee slosh over her hand, so she threw that in the girl's face. When she remained unfazed, Molly threw her pastry at the woman. This seemed to stun her, so she grabbed more pastries. Each one hit like the rocks they were. And slowly, the stranger stumbled back. Molly bolted to the coffee, but was greeted by the pair of women in black dresses. They smiled at her, holding their hands out like friends. Their fangs glistened despite the lack of light. Molly smiled sweetly back, just so she could open the top of the silver carafe and push the coffee over. The women wailed in agony as burning hot coffee poured out. Molly found her door and pushed with all her might into an empty hotel hallway. She ran past the bewildered guests and the bored concierge. She considered telling them to call the cops, but knew from experience no one would believe her anyway. The burst of cold night air filled Molly with adrenaline. She pushed the alarm button on her car and ran to it. In the safety of her vehicle, she locked all the doors. She let out a guttural sob. "I just want friends," she wailed into the night. After a few moments, instinct kicked in and threw the car in reverse to get her home. James was asleep when Molly returned. She was shocked to find it was after midnight. She triple-checked all the lights were on, and the doors were locked. So were the windows. As she approached the bed, she reached beneath her husband's pillow and wrapped cold fingers on the wooden stake. Then, her excuses. Ted body wrapped itself in the warmth of her husband and attempted to fall asleep to the rhythmic sound of his beating heart. Morning came and went. The work week came and went. By the following Saturday, the nightmares of the last week felt like a scary dream. Of course, that's when the letter came. It didn't come by postman or dropped off at work. It was nailed to Molly's front door one night when she got home from work. The letter's envelope wasn't like the normal white one you find at the office. The paper was rough and slightly yellowed, like when her son, Jake, had a school project, so they soaked paper in coffee to make it look old. And when Molly flipped it to the front, it bore a pretty, pink, sparkly seal with the letter S on it. Her husband told her, wait for him to open it. So after the kids went to bed, they sat up in theirs and slowly broke the seal. Inside was a sheet of paper which had Sadie's beautiful calligraphy that matched Molly's original invite to the conference. The message was short and sweet. I really think you should reconsider, babe, for your family's sake. Call me. S. Molly crumpled up the letter. You gotta admit, it's a new tactic. They usually just invite us over for a BBQ and a few cheap beers, James said with a laugh. Then, realizing his wife wasn't laughing with him, he added, guess it's time to move again. Molly remained quiet. A few tears gathered in her eyes. James once again tried to lighten the mood. You think one of them would figure out I'm a descendant of the Van Helsings before inviting you over? Maybe that's why they keep trying. Like some sick cat and mouse game, she replied, her voice trembling. Then, with a frown on her face, she added, I just wish I could find some real friends. He offered her a warm embrace, much more comforting than last night, as he whispered into her hair, someday you will, I promise. James was wise enough to let her pull away. She marched into James's home office. He couldn't see her eyes, and turned on the shredder. It roared to life, grinding the letter into tiny pieces of confetti.